as parents, we're not there to help our children go through these experiences, different experiences. They'll have a variety of experiences, including school. And one of actually, the last word that is listed on our virtue list, and just to give you some background on this, maybe three or 4 years ago, actually probably 4 or 5 years ago, I had the thought of teaching children about virtues. I was going to be part of one of the leaders for Sunday school at one of the churches we were going to in Ohio. And that didn't happen. And my family and I, we ended up moving to Oregon. And then, as you know, in 2020, we had the coronavirus storm. And it was at that time, during that time, I said, you know what? I was going to go through these virtues because, as a child, one of the things that I got from my experiences with pain is that life doesn't have to be that way. There are things that we can, as parents, instill in our children, the building blocks of their character to help them transcend experiences and to prevent this massive or this their projection of pain on others. One of the things I thought of when my father said that, I was around four or so, somewhere under five, okay? And I had reported my father abusing my mother. And one of the things he said was, you have no business telling people what's going on at home. And I knew at that point as a child that he was not ready to own his pain. Whatever he had been through, experienced in life, he was not ready to own that pain. Therefore, he was not ready to own the truth of him projecting pain on my mother. Now, there are two sides of a story, right? Because when we think about pain, we think about, yes, people can project it, but what do we allow to happen? What we allow to happen? What's our mindset? Do we love ourselves enough? Do we, have self-worth, great self-worth? And those are questions that, as I reflect on my personal experience with pain, that I had to come to fruition to. There was some um, disconnect with loving myself and believing that I was worthy of respect, that I was worthy of telling the dark secret, right? And that's often, I believe, at the root of abuse, is that we feel like, for one, we think other people are doing it and it must be okay. Another is that we're afraid to speak our truth, that voice. And that's one of the things I've been encouraging my children with, discussing these 52 virtues that I found online, from patience, compassion to unity, basically. And been trying to tell them that, hey, you have a voice. No matter what environment you are in, what experience you are in, you have a voice. So one of the things that my husband and I had already discussed possibly teaching our children at home or doing online school. And this was even before their births. And during COVID 2020, when there was some instability, right? Schools were trying to decide what to do. We had to get information from, upper leadership. And at that moment, it was a moment of, what? My husband said, let's just homeschool. And so we homeschool. Carl started off with me, and I ended up homeschooling our children. And the last 2 years, 2023, last 2 years, we decided to go ahead and put them in online school. Again, Carl was my husband. He was the one that was like, you know what, we both had concerns about, socialization, and, me, I had put it out in the universe about, books to buy. I wasn't sure with that. And then paying for the books too, as well, with everything that was going on. And so they went through Connections Academy, which took them out of brick and mortar. And another reason was because of the bullying they had received. And every day I watched my children, their facial expressions, my daughter not wanting to go to school, and I saw the sadness, the gloom, the gloominess on their faces. And I knew something needed to be done. So COVID, again, homeschool, and then online school. Well, now they're back in brick and mortar. And it's been an adjustment for our children. And um, we've been talking about unity. And unity is when you're respecting one another, when you're bringing others together, when you can foster an environment, to me, where you are edifying one another, you're building up one another. And particularly my son, he has ran into some experiences where he's hearing, racial comments, he's hearing foul language or curse words. And when we can't be there for every experience our children have, but we can help with them to build their, like I said, their character, their foundation, with speaking to them. And that's something that I've tried to do, since they were born. This is, you have a right to your body. Your body is your private vehicle. It is the vehicle for your message. Sharing those beliefs to um, again, to build them up, because there are so many things that can happen, you guys, to our children that can really tear them down. And we hear about teenage pregnancy, we hear about suicide and homicide among children, about the school shootings. And I did bring up those concerns that my son had, that he experienced, to the principal, because I feel like when we talk about communication, we need accurate communication. We need to make sure that it's true. We need reliable or relevant communication. We need honest communication. It needs to be timely, done in a manner so that we can, what my mom would say, nip things in the bud. We don't allow things to continue, especially if we know it's not the right thing to do. Um, and that was one of the things, should I go ahead and say something or should I not? And I was like, I should, because if it continues, then the first thing they want to ask you, if you try to bring up the past, is how come you never said anything in the first place? So they do have a reporting system. We will use that. And we will continue to monitor their progress in brick and mortar. That was one of the things that my concerns that I had. When you're putting children out there in an environment, you are exposing them not to just other children, different grade levels, but you're exposing them to staff, people, teachers, police officers, security guards. You're exposing them to how parents have raised their children, those principles, whether, it's prejudice, whether it's racism, whether it's love, divisiveness, or compassion. You're exposing them to the beliefs of others. And I truly believe, regardless of titles, we are still human beings who have emotions and feelings. And some of us do well with facing our emotions and feelings. And then there are times when we do not do as well, and we project our pain on others. So no matter what your title is, my children know that you don't look at the title. They are still a human being first. They still have emotions. And one of the things that I often would tell, what I would do when I was younger, because when we're talking about creating a generational love cycle, and we talk about unity and bringing everyone together, helping people to see that we're all, the creation of this divine energy, plants, animals, beings, human beings, and that there are different colors and, different outside experience, outside appearances, the nose, the eyes, the way the hands are, the eyebrows, everything. We're uniquely built for this unique journey. And so, but we do have, everyone has to master themselves. We have to control our emotions and feelings. We have to look beyond what we're seeing and what we are, spiritual beings. and we're here on an earthly journey. We'll all have our curriculum. I cannot control every experience my children will have. They will manifest things in their lives, but giving them that structure, that foundation is what I'm talking about. Talking to our children, talking actually with our children, listening to what they have to say, listening to their day and how their day went, listening to the words that maybe they heard, how someone responded to them. That's important because we're saying when we listen, when we talk with our children, we're saying your voice matters. And where do we learn stuff at? We learn it at home. And then we go out into the world and we do what we've learned. We take on those beliefs, those thoughts, and we represent those in our actions, right? And so it's about talking to them and learning and listening, finding out what they're reading, finding out, their grades, that we shouldn't have to wait until the report card. And I know communication, for me, it's been that where I have talked to the teacher and then I get a report card and it's something totally, totally different or something that was left off during our conversation. But it's like that constant communication and keeping all lines open to say, you know what, I care about my son. I care about my daughter. And I want to make sure they're getting the best environment possible. That nothing is perfect, but we're striving for excellence. We're striving to be better each day. We're listening not just to the teachers as principals, but we're listening to the parents. We're minimizing how we're projecting our pain on these kids, these families that we are serving, because our children are with them for 6.5, 8 hours a day. And they too, that's plenty of time to have a word said that can totally diminish their self-esteem, that can diminish their self-worth, that can have them question their life purpose, their life's meaning. And so again, keeping those lines of communication open, and my daughter and my son both, when we're doing things, that's the best time. We're doing things together, playing cards or doing something. Often we can capture those things they forgot to tell us because they're so relaxed now and playing. They're like, my son will say, oh yeah, mom, and I forgot to tell you this, this, and this, and this. So appreciating and thanking them for speaking to us, speaking with us, and telling us honestly what has happened. And it's when I think about the time that I spent with my children and helping them to understand principles, to ground them, to build their foundation. The other thing is that some people can think that, oh, you're sheltering your children. And there is a difference between sheltering and cocooning. Cocooning is when you're actually taking in vital information and becoming a better version of yourself. Sheltering to me is more like, we're not telling you all this stuff. We're going to, there's not a lot of focus on, to me, there's not a lot of focus. The main concern, I should say, with sheltering is keeping our children from it. The main concern with cocooning is to help them be their highest version of themselves. That means we're going to take measures of grounding them in principles, life principles, this discussion, role playing, talking about virtues and what does it mean, asking about their life's purpose, having them to share their input. So I don't see myself as sheltering. I see that the work that we did with our children, have been doing since birth, and especially in Oregon when we were away from the city, was about helping them to become their highest version, helping them to prepare for what is to come. As I said before, every experience builds on the next. And so, just a few little tidbits that I wanted to share because I know as a parent, for me, seeing my children go to school and hearing their experiences and being around other people, you don't want people to say negative things. You don't want them to experience harmful things, bullying, teasing. But the other side of you is like, well, they need their practice too. And they only need so much, because for me, I would rather put them in a welcoming environment, in an empowering environment. And if I feel like, and I've done it before, if I feel like they're not getting that, then as a parent, I have to do what I have to do to make sure that they get that. Every experience happens for a reason. And just hearing my son talk about, Mom, I said this, or Mom, I did this, seeing him feel more confident in himself, has been more of, to me, satisfying. Yes, I can't control what other people do. There's no way we can do that. But we can build children that will see people's hearts. They will give people back their pain instead of internalizing it. And I've shared with my children, I used to do that as a child. I would mentally say, no, that's not mine, that belongs to you. And that prevents those weeds, many of those weeds that can grow in our inner garden, and that we end up projecting our pain on others. So I teach my children not to take things personally, and to see, again, the people, their hearts. So when we create a generational love cycle, we make ourselves aware, we become more aware of those thoughts. We strive to be more aware of those thoughts that have created this cycle of pain, this divisiveness, the insecurities, the feel for greed and control and dominion over people. We kind of we put it under a microscope, we look at it, and we say, okay, we've created this. Individual consciousness creates collective consciousness. We've created this. So how do we uncreate this? How do we create something that is based on love, that edifies one another, that knows there's enough for everyone, that we don't need to control people. We don't need to belittle them or dehumanize them because we want to make sure we're in control, no matter who it is. We change those thoughts that created pain in the first place. We make ourselves aware. We have the conversation with ourselves first, and then with our children. And then we put the practices involved with speaking about virtues, life principles, beliefs, thoughts, actions, and helping our children to see, remember who they are. Because within them is the truth. Within you is the truth. You know when something doesn't feel right. You know when something does not align with the highest version of yourselves. And often what we do is that when we're doing something that is opposite of love, we are ignoring the truth. So create a generational love cycle. It's about creating a generation of virtues that will help people become the highest version of themselves. Not just money, financial, that will come when we're doing what we're supposed to do, when we're edifying each other, when we're building the kingdom of great spirits dressed in clothing, in a variety of clothing. Unity is the word. And when we think of unity, the opposite of unity is divisiveness. And we have too much of it going on based on your color, your religion, your sex, your gender, your role, woman versus man. There's so much there that does not need to be there. And we can change it. One person, one thought at a time. This is Tamika Chambers with Create a Generational Love Cycle. May you create the generation, the legacy that is worth fighting for. Talk to you guys soon.